Consulting is one of the most popular career paths, especially for management students. It's a hyper competitive industry, but oftentimes candidates are not aware of almost anything about the job. Moreover, once they enter, how do they manage their career to move up the ladder? Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to Career with Kalpi. I hope all of you are keeping safe. In the last session, we learned about product management through an amazing conversation with Anjali. If you missed it, I'll post the link in description. In today's session, we learn about management consulting. Today's fabulous guest, Khushboo Vash, is from my alma mater, an alumna of IIT Kanpur and IIM Calcutta. She's a senior director at Alvarez and Marsal. She's been in management consulting for over 12 years now, starting with McKinsey and Company, then moving to Alvarez, becoming a manager, senior manager, director, and senior director there. She's interested in venture capital, private equity, and startups. She runs marathons. Overall, she's a huge inspiration to so many of us. Hi, Khushboo. Thank you so much for taking out the time to be on this series. Our audience is going to benefit immensely from this session. First of all,
thank you, Kalpi.
You've always been in consulting. We want to know more about your career journey with respect to the roles and responsibilities that change from associate to manager to now senior director. And secondly, how have your projects changed in terms of clients and industries that you've worked with over the past 12 years?
Sure. So first of all, thanks a lot, Kalpi, for inviting me on your session. Glad to be here, and hopefully if someone can benefit, I think it'll be really nice to me. So yes, about my journey. So I spent 2 years after graduating from IIM Calcutta with McKinsey and Company in India office, and I worked across various engagements, various industries from media, telecom, infrastructure, etc. So it basically gave me a very good, I would say, broad-based understanding of different industries. But somehow at that point in time, I wanted to do more of operational roles, and that's the reason why I then chose to move to A&M, which was just setting up its shop. A&M has opened office in 2008 December, and I joined them in 2010. And I joined also because one of my McKinsey seniors had also moved there. So in fact, at that point in time, I haven't heard about the brand, and I got to know more and joined A&M as manager. So, my career journey actually has been very much the story of how A&M also grew from almost, 12, 15 people to now 250 odd people.
Right.
Initially, we were, trying to do restructuring with banks in India, but that was a very new concept for all the banks, and the industry wasn't, as developed. So I would say, in fact, when we used to get projects, in the beginning, the projects were more like, the company is almost sort of dead, and the bankers want to know, okay, what can I salvage from it? Slowly and gradually, we tried hard with all the lenders, and they also started getting that what kind of value we can add if we are called in little more early. So, for uninitiated, I would say, A&M is like a doctor to the corporate world. So we are restructuring experts. If the company is not doing well, we go in early and try and, take some actions with to save cash, try and restructure their, capital structure, and, try and save the company. So as I said, initially our engagements were almost when the company was on deathbed. But slowly and gradually we were started getting calls earlier when there was still cash flow, company was still operating. So the bankers, understood the value, and it just opened up the sector. Then also in 2016-17, Indian bankruptcy code was developed, in which I personally myself, along with some seniors at A&M, we helped government in drafting the law. And since then, in fact, the industry has sort of just boomed, the whole insolvency restructuring market in India. So of course now our engagements are much more structured. There is a full-fledged process around this whole legal structure. So we still possibly doing the same thing, but now the engagements are much bigger. If initially banks would give us a company where the exposure was 500 crore, now it has moved to almost, for 40-50,000 crores of exposure,
Wow.
which they are, relying us on. So we did the SR Steel case, 2 years back. So I would say the industry has matured a lot in India, the restructuring industry, and so has my career as well, I would say. In terms of your question on how my responsibilities change from being a manager to senior manager to director, then senior director, I would say, as when you join early and in any professional services firm, apart from designations, if I keep aside, uh, when you join in, you have to focus more on analytics data. You need to have a rigor in your analysis, need to make sure that you have triangulated everything very well. You have talked to 3-4 people to make sure that what you are looking at is right and how you are interpreting is right. uh, Slowly and gradually, once you move up the ladder, then the data analysis part is little less important, and the more important it becomes that how well you are understanding the problem. Can you see the big picture, like, and can you manage the stakeholders? So I would say that all that people angle starts becoming much more important as compared to when you are a, let's say, a junior in a consulting industry. So that and that's across any professional services firm, I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. Uh, so the next question is on skill sets. So, like you've already
Mhm.
described about the work, looks like there is a wide variety of skill sets that's needed in consulting. So, can you pick a few of them that you would focus the most on when hiring people at different levels? And then secondly, like you mentioned, you would initially you focus more on data analytics, and then you move to problem understanding, and then you move to stakeholder management and people management. How do folks, or did you acquire these new skills when you moved up the ladder?
See, I would say it was more or less on the job learning for us. But of course, I mean, there are a lot of trainings which are available. And in fact, now that I see, especially for associates and managers, there are so many, Udemy, different portals where a lot of these tools and trainings are available. So initially we used to rely upon more of in-person coaching, but now during the lockdown, I'm seeing that there are a lot of training options which are available. So in terms of skill set, to your first question, I would say when we are looking at hiring at a manager or a senior manager role, uh, of course at manager level we see that whether they are proficient in Excel, PowerPoint, and these days if they know Tableau or some other data analytics tool or a language, I think that will be a very plus point. Are they coming from a relevant sector? That's secondary though, because at time we also hire from MBAs and MBA colleges like across IIMs, and I would say the sector is little less important, but what kind of work have they done in their past job is what is more important. Whether
Yeah.
it was data heavy or and I'm not saying that only data heavy. For example, if someone has worked in sales, so we also have a revenue enhancement practice where we work with the companies on improving their revenue, and which involves a lot of, let's say, sales training, etc. So we see what kind of work experience they have got in the past, and if they are proficient with these all these new age tools, or at least the basic ones like Excel and PowerPoint. And second and most important, and which is also very common tool which is used for recruitment across consulting firms, is a case study kind of a
Yeah.
module, right? Where we are not looking at the final answer, but we are looking at more as to how you're solving it, right? Because problem solving, I would say, is more important in consulting, because every day you will be thrown into some or the other issues where you have to solve for either solve for reducing the cost or improving the tat, etc. Right? So the problem solving skill, I would say, is the most important at manager, senior manager level. Then at little more senior level, we also look at what kind of teams have you handled in past. uh, and at the senior level, it is little bit more about the relevant work experience. So uh, possibly, unless we are looking at someone for our IT team, we would not go for, let's say, a software kind of experience. So at a M or a senior manager level, we are open to any sector or industry, but at a director level, let's say where people have to lead the project, we try and look for some relevant background in terms of their sector experience. So that is what I would say, in terms of skill set, which is, problem solving, data analytics is, I would
Right.
say, is the key ingredient which we want to look for.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you so much. One interesting question. So, especially for, I know you are at a very senior level now, but especially for the young consultants, often people ask when they are, say, working with traditional industries, or you mentioned with the government, for example, wherein you're working with people who are far more experienced than you, and probably in their fields, they're far more expertise than you, then especially at a junior level, say associate manager level, how do you establish that credibility to be able to suggest a solution to them, add value, and bring a change? Any tips and tricks that people should keep in mind to do that?
Right. I would say that's a very good question, Kalpi. So this is something which I used to struggle a lot in the beginning, also because I used to look little younger than my age.
Yeah.
So that was one challenge, and that's, I think, with lot of female folks as well who are in industry, that a lot of traditional sectors, as you also said, are male dominated. So then, especially on the shop floors, if you go, there are hardly any,
Yeah.
women folk there, right? So now, how do you make sure that you are able to, make your mark, or you get yourself heard in the first place? I think, forget people listening to you or following you. The first thing is that how do you, make your mark
Yeah.
by, speaking. So I would say, I relied, and what happened is that I got this difficult, exposure in the beginning at A&M itself, where I was with a, taxi servicing company, and which had, I think, just one female or maybe two female in the whole 200 odd employees, right? And that too at a very junior level. So, and I was looking at the maintenance, at the shop floor. So it was all male dominated, lot of low level technicians, and then some, senior guys who were there. But all of them had, spent some 30, 20 years in their own
Right.
space, whatever they were doing. Right. So the most difficult part was that how do I make sure that they understand that what I'm talking is making sense. So I relied on data, I relied on facts, because that is something which, no one can deny. Right. If I'll tell them that, okay, you need to do this, and it is not based on something which is concrete, then no one will listen to you, and in fact it will have a, I would say, a negative impression that what you are saying doesn't make sense, and people won't take you, seriously from the next time. So my thinking was that I always relied on data and facts, to a large extent. That was my first, go-to tool, especially when I had to deal with this kind of a situation. And second was that I tried doing a lot of stakeholder management. So for example, if I have to present to, a room full of 20 people, I would not go in there without knowing at least, 10, 12 of them, or meeting
Yeah.
them personally. Right. So just to make sure that, when I'm going out there, I'm not new or cold to them. So I would go and meet them personally, before the meeting. So do a lot of stakeholder management, preparation before such an event. And once, let's say, you have made your mark in a, room full of 20 folks, I think that's it. Then after that, then, conversations will be much easier, because now people will take you seriously. So I always relied upon that kind of image, that I stick to data, facts, and also high integrity. So at A&M, we used to handle a lot of, cash approvals, because the engagements would be like, the lenders would put us in certain companies where they felt that promoter was siphoning off money, right? So they wanted a credible organization like us to go in there and make sure that the cash is used for the operations. So this is a high responsibility job. So whatever you are approving, whatever you are, spending the money on, should be going towards the right usage. So one very important thing which, the lenders wanted was integrity. So I always stuck to that. and of course relied on data and facts, as I said. So I think knowing your client well, like what are they really looking for, and always basing your judgments on something which is very concrete is has helped me in last 10 to 12 years, I would say.
That's very, very interesting and super useful. And especially the point that you mentioned, that knowing them beforehand and probably discussing it with them beforehand. I also feel the same way, that we are, when you're going in a room full of huge audience who know your work better than, who know their work, because you're helping
Right.
them, you should probably already, they should have already seen your work outside of the room. Should have, it shouldn't be a surprise to that room that you're just presenting something out of the world and they didn't expect that to be yours.
Absolutely. Right. And I'll just add one more thing, Kalpi, that most of the times it's not just data and facts on which the decisions are taken. Sometimes there are lot of these personal things, so you should know, okay, who are my audience. So
Yeah,
there will be five people in the room, and everyone will have a different motivation, right? Someone might be looking for a promotion there, someone might be looking for something else, they might be looking for bonus. So what you are presenting, is it going to help both of them, right? So understanding that what kind of context is there. So if you know that, okay, this guy is going to is expecting a promotion, but he's my main guy, and if he just kills my going to kill my idea, then go and talk to him and make it sound as if it is his own idea, and let him support you in that room, so that he also gets a lot of accolade. So I think in consulting, one very important thing which everyone should realize is that try and not gain the claps and glory for yourself, but for your client.
yeah,
And once you have decided and make sure that you have that kind of an approach in your mind, I think things become much more easier, because then you are helping others instead of
yeah.
trying and being a superhero yourself. So
I
that,
agree,
I would say,
totally
is
agree.
very very important.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's a very useful insight. So moving on to the next
Mhm.
question, and a little bit personal. I'm also
Mhm.
very interested to hear more about your most challenging, either one case or a few of them, and how you navigated through it. What were your learnings from there?
Sure. So, as I said, this one case where I was thrown early, at the shop floor, that
Yeah.
that I would rate as one of the pretty challenging, and also because it had a lot of situations. There were labor unions, etc. To handle
Wow.
them, it was a unique experience. And so I would say that I at that point in time, I was a little bit still younger in the game, so the lot of responsibility was also on my seniors to tackle, apart from myself. But there was another case, which I did somewhere when I was a senior manager or so. It was with a airline and it was a large organization, unlike our previous engagements, which were probably smaller companies. This was almost 20,000 crore plus kind of a revenue which was there.
Wow.
So it was a large organization. But why I was saying that it was challenging was, so it was a professional organization, no doubt, and a lot of professional folks around. So in terms of the client, let's say, per se, the working was very easy. A lot of women folks were there, so things like you being heard or anything was not a challenge. But there was a very different story altogether, because there was a promoter and there was an investor. So there was lot of this tussle which used to go on between them. And then the thing which I said, that understanding your stakeholder, that what everyone wants, I think that became very challenging for me. And things were little bit bureaucratic. Decision making was with the promoter. So
Right.
how to make sure that what we are saying, what idea we are presenting, which is good for the company and no one doubted that, but making sure that it gets implemented, because that was a very key thing, right? I mean, if I'm giving a lot of ideas, but if I'm not able to make sure that it gets implemented, then there is no point.
Yeah.
So I would say that was one of my most challenging cases, not because I had a lot of work, not because I had long hours, or not because I was in a difficult situation where people wouldn't listen to me, but just because there were so many of these, multi-layer personalities which I had to deal with. I would possibly rate it as my most difficult engagements. And actually that was one engagement where I really learned that, understanding people is possibly the most important thing in a professional services firm. So that's why I would rate it as my most difficult experience.
Thank you so much for that. That was very interesting. Moving on a little bit to the consulting business. So, I think client discovery is an important element for the consulting business, and it requires, face-to-face interviews, meeting clients, like you were saying, understanding your client, meeting them to understand their challenges better, and that can only happen when you are on the ground. So, given the
Right.
current COVID situation, how's the industry managing it? And then any other challenges or opportunities in the current environment?
Right. So I somewhat agree with you that sitting face to face, I think nothing can take that place, right? Be it video calls or anything. Uh, but I would say that we should be a little glad that this pandemic happened this year and not, let's say, 2 or 3 years back, right? When these Zoom calls or Microsoft Team were not out there, right? uh, if it had happened, let's say, 2 years 3 years back, I don't think we could have worked so smoothly as we are doing right now. I agree that meeting client is the most important, and in fact we very stress a lot working 100% on the client side. So when we are on engagements, we are fully at the client. We we don't even follow our own holidays. Whatever client is doing, we do follow that. If they work
Yeah,
6 days a week, we do 6 days a week with them. So that's was kind of an ethos which we were working with pre-pandemic. But yes, it has changed our lifestyle quite a bit. But having said that, I would say, as I said, if it had happened 2 3 years back, it would have been a very very difficult story altogether.
right.
Because now, because of these Microsoft Teams, Zoom, etc., I would say things have become much more easier. So we are doing a lot of our discussions on the video calls, especially the initial ones. So wherever, let's say, our projects were on, we didn't face that kind of an issue because we already knew
Mm.
people, right? So that was not a challenge. uh, but we have won new projects during this pandemic. We have also done a merger and acquisition project, I would say, in this situation where we have not met a single person before we started the engagement. So uh, we relied quite a bit on the technology. It has helped to a certain extent, but I would still say that when the lockdown opens up, what will be more critical is that possibly those initial visits to the client, meeting them face to face, establishing some sort of a personal connect, and then maybe we can still work quite a bit remotely, is what we have realized. So I think consulting industry is going to change for sure. There'll be a lot of mix of now remote working as well, which I would say will be good for women folk, because earlier, a lot of females used to drop out, after, let's say, spending 3 4 years in consulting because of the family or social pressure. But I think now this remote working will give a huge boost to people who want to continue their career in this industry. So that will help. It will be a mix of, I would say, remote and
I see.
personal interaction.
Very
Kind
interesting,
of.
because yeah, I was just thinking about that the this rapidly changing technology and the benefits of it we've all seen in pandemic, we being able to everything do everything online. How would, and on top of that, the abundance of analytical tools which were not there probably earlier, how is that, how is consulting industry reacting to all of that change in technology and analytical tools that have been coming up?
So I, I I would say that consulting industry is actually taking it head on, and in fact, most of the firms I know, and even at A&M, we have started looking digital in a big way. So everyone has now, set up teams which are looking at big data analytics to help the client with lot of to process the lot of data which they have, but they have never really bothered to see. So I think
Right.
everyone is actually investing in digital.
I
Everyone
see.
is investing. In fact, I know some of the professional services firm where they have hired data scientists,
Yeah.
at the back end to help with the with different sectors. So consulting industry, I would say, is honestly on the forefront of it. People are investing in digital, they are investing in big data analytics, and everyone is now trying to offer solution, because in fact that is the need of the hour, right? So a lot of our clients, especially in the traditional industry, where they suffered quite a bit because of the pandemic, now even in manufacturing, we are seeing projects where we are trying to help them with sensors which they can remotely then manage, or at least monitor how the manufacturing setup is going on. So a lot of
Wow.
people now want to invest in this space. So I would say consulting will benefit from it. People do say that because consulting guys used to bring in a lot of intellectual horsepower to the clients. So there is a question always that, okay, if now the data analytics tool can do it, why do you require consultants to do it?
Yeah.
uh, so so I would say it's going to be so consulting will have to evolve. It won't be a plain vanilla consulting now, that you just go there and do some small bit of Excel analysis and give it to the client and come out happily. It will have to evolve, and that's the reason why people are investing in
Right.
more advanced tools, which can help their client much better. So it won't jeopardize. It will actually help consulting, is my sense.
Got it. Thank you. So the last question is that given the rigor in the consulting world, it's one of those
Mhm.
fields where attrition is paramount. So I want to ask you two things on that. How was it for you, especially in these starting years, and how did you cope with the pressure, and continue to stay in consulting? And then now, as a leader, are there any initiatives that are focused on decreasing attrition?
Right. So, as I was saying, you are right that, attrition is pretty high. It's almost like 25% in some of the firms in the early years. Uh, one good thing, at least at A&M, is that our attrition is little on the lower side, because we always have this family kind of a feeling. Our promoters are still alive, and they want to make sure that people stay here for a longer period of time. We have people staying in consulting for 10-15 years, going out on the industry and then coming back again. So in some way I was lucky that I was at A&M, which had this core value of making sure that the people stay on. But having said that, on personal front, I was very clear from the beginning that I would make sure that my health doesn't suffer. So that
Right.
was paramount to me, and I always tried to manage my lifestyle around that health comes supreme. So make sure if I want to run, so I started running after, in fact, I joined McKinsey at that in 2008-9. That's when I started running. In fact, I was never sort of a runner in school or college. So I tried continuing that hobby to a large extent. I tried manage my schedules accordingly, and I think the thing which helped me was being open about it to my seniors. So a lot of time what happens, I've also seen that uh, kids don't tell that, okay, they want some time off, or they want to
Yeah.
cope up with something, because they feel that if they tell this to their seniors, that will jeopardize their promotion or bonus, right? So that kind of a feeling is there. So but I was very clear that I had that kind of a rapport with my boss, that I would should be able to tell him or her that this is what I want to do. I will make sure that the work gets done, but this is maybe I'll take a day off today, but may work sometime else, right? So I think that openness is very important. Always discuss, and also keep your priorities right. I mean, if you don't value your own health, then nothing can help you, I would say. So keeping the priorities right in your mind, I think, helped me a lot. And also a lot of people say that I keep my professional and personal life separate, but uh, for me, I in fact benefited by having a little bit of a thin line around that. So I have made a lot of friends in my professional space. I never thought, okay, this is my job. So when I I've always gone to work. I have never, it's not a burden to me, because I always came with that attitude that, okay, I mean, this is a place where I want to be and make friends. I have a lot of friends from my, now professional space, with whom I'm in touch with, even though they have left the firm 4 5 years back. So that kind of an attitude actually really helped me. I was open to my seniors, telling them, I'm going to run a race on Sunday.
Right.
If there is something which you are really going to call me, please don't call me, because I would be available for 6 hours. So this is how I think one should try and just be very clear about their priorities, and don't take work as work. Try and enjoy it, and hopefully that should help.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Khushboo, for the wonderful insights on management consulting. So, folks, my few takeaways here are the following. Um, Firstly, roles do evolve in management consulting from, start in the starting focusing more on data analytics, your rigor in analysis, to problem solving, understanding the big picture, stakeholder management, and people management. And therefore, the hiring process also evolves when you're being hired for an associate versus when you're being hired for a manager or a senior director, senior director, or much senior level in the firm. And second most important key takeaway for me was know your client really, really well. When you're going in a room full of 20 people and probably they know their industry much better, know what their challenges are, know them inside out, know that what you're presenting would be agreeable to them so that it's not a shock to the room. Thank you so much again, Khushboo, and thank you everyone for watching. I'm sure you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Please let us know in comments if there are any questions that you want to ask in management consulting, or if there's any career path that you want to know more about. Stay tuned to Career with Kalpi. Keep safe. See you in the next video. Bye bye.
Thanks, Kalpi. Bye, everyone.